Okay, Jake, here's your verbal feedback for your paper, for your draft thus far, and I'm reminding everyone that my comments at this stage are just focusing on the biggest things that might be coming up in your paper. Once you fix those things, still look at the rubric to make sure there's nothing else that you haven't missed and nothing else you couldn't improve. So I really like your title. I think it's working well. It's exactly what you're saying, paradigm, nice fancy word, one of those $2 words or whatever people call fancy words. Nicely done. The biggest issue that I think you have in your paper is that you equivocate a lot. Sometimes you beat around the bush by making things too personal. I'm not against using I, but some of the ways you use I are causing your argument to be watered down, and I'll point those out as I go along. For instance, you say, I would not be surprised, and I think you should just say this of course is something unsurprising coming from high school students. That would make it more impactful. In both of these cases, to me personally, and I feel comfortable, I think you should just go for it. Say, so I understand what you're doing here. I understand that you are trying to give your authority, and that's a really good thing. But it's watering down, and I think you can give your authority without doing it. So you could just say, get rid of all this and just say, video games, despite their genre, do not exist solely for children. And starting your paragraph with, to me personally, waters it down. You could try saying, this issue comes off as one that is rather unsettling, especially to me. And then you can give your authority, and I think that'll work really well. I do have a question, though. In your paper, you're in general trying to fight against the stereotype of gamers. But I feel like you might also be starting here to get into the definition of what a game is and whether or not it's for children. Yeah, get rid of I find here too, sorry. And so just make sure that you're bringing it back in. So therefore, if games aren't for children, then that might mean that gamers are thought of differently if they're no longer playing children's games. Like maybe that's the root of the issue. And so you might just want to make some of that transition clearer here as you move back into arguing about gamers themselves. So this here, you say, I find the reality to be more conclusive to the contrary. Just say, the reality is more conclusive to the contrary. You don't need any years for this. That would be APA style. You can just put his last name. Okay, so this is great, and this is really strong, and what he says here is, I think, perfect. Again, you don't need this year. I think it's really nice what you said here, but what I want is more of it. This is really kind of the biggest point of your paper, and I think you need to play it up a lot and really use what he said and talk more about how good gaming can be. And that'll get to one of my comments I'll give you in just a minute. Again here, I do realize I'm not saying that. I know you're conceding here, and that's good. But be more obvious or be more forthright about it. Say, video games are not necessarily an inherent good thing. They may be very easy to abuse. And so that would make it a little more of a concession. No, you're there. Personally, I see no reason. So there is no reason why someone who leads an outgoing and successful life should feel any inadequacy. Stronger. And I think you really want to do more with the so what, who cares. I'm not seeing enough of that. Why we should care. Let's say I'm not a gamer, right? So why should I care about this if I'm not a gamer? Let's say my husband wasn't a gamer. Why would I care about these issues? Make that more obvious. And then you just want this to be in alphabetical order. And then this one, I see no author, and that's fine. But in your paper, you did give an author, and you gave Irving as the author. If you don't have an author and you just want to cite this thing and they have no author, you would cite it. So you've got your sentence, you've got your parentheses, quotation mark, and you would cite, you could just put Broncos, end quotations, like that. And so in your citation, it would say Broncos, which is the first major word of the title. And then again, put this in alphabetical order. Oh, and you can skip this too. You don't need that. MLA says that the web URL is optional now, and I don't care about it. I'll be able to find it without it. Okay, so there is your verbal feedback, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you in class on Wednesday.